All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. My name is Cailin O'Neill, and I'm from travelyourself.ca, and I'm here to talk with you today about lovely Australia. I myself am kind of obsessed with Australia. I'm currently in Sydney right now for my 8th time, and I actually came to the country in 2008 for the first time after I'd met a bunch of Australians on a tour in Europe in 2007. And ever since then, I've just kept coming back to see friends, and I'm actually here now to be a bridesmaid in an Australian friend's wedding. And I love this country. And today I am here with Brooke from herpackinglist.com, sorry, and BrookeVisitsTheWorld.com, and David DiGregorio from StyleHighClub.com. And I'll let them introduce themselves to you. And Brooke, you're on my left, so you can go first.
Hello, everyone. Like Cailin said, I blog at Brooke versus the World and herpackinglist.com. I'm an American expat who's been living in Sydney for over 4 years now. But I came because I actually met a nice Australian guy while I was traveling in Europe. And even though I always planned on coming to Australia, I came a bit sooner because of that relationship. But it's been great living here. And yeah. Next.
And David?
I'm David. I work in the travel and tourism industry, but I also blog at StyleHighClub.com, which is a blog I run with my wife. I left my career working in advertising in New York in 2007 and moved to Sydney. I had never been there at the time, and for 2007 and 2008, I lived in Sydney and traveled pretty extensively all around Australia. So Australia is like a second home to me, even though I haven't been there in a few years, and I'd love to share any information I have on it.
Yes, and anyone at any time can send us questions. You can tweet them at me at Cailin O'Neill, which is CAILINONEIL, or you can send them via email. So that's CailInO'Neill@travelyourself.ca. And we'll start asking some of these guys some of your pressing questions about Australia. Let's see here. Sorry, just looking at my notes. So during this talk, we're going to be talking a lot about Sydney because it's one of the main points that everyone comes to and sees. It's one of them, definitely the biggest must-see in the country. However, let's start talking about everywhere else. And I'll ask you first, David, where else in Australia do you think that people should visit?
I mean, I think you have your standards, you know, Sydney, Melbourne, Cairns, the Great Barrier Reef, maybe even Uluru are sort of the traditional must-visits. But I think for me, I would say Western Australia has a lot to offer that people don't usually get to. It still has that sort of frontier spirit that feels like the Wild West, you know, if you compare it to the United States. And the whole western coast from Perth up to Geraldton and Monkey Mia is just such a cool place. I mean, it's the type of area where you drive out of a major area and you have no cell reception immediately, and there's no signs of human life immediately except for like the road you're driving on. So it just feels really remote and rustic. And also Tasmania. I love Tasmania. It sort of has like a mini New Zealand feel. They're just I don't think people really make a priority out of going to those two places, but they definitely should.
And Tasmania, I've heard it described as kind of being like Canada. You just went across all of Canada on a train. From what you saw, did it seem similar?
I mean, I guess it's similar in that it has, you know, very dramatic landscapes, and you know, it's absolutely beautiful. Obviously, the wildlife is a bit different than Canada, but yeah, I mean, it's also very accessible. So whereas Canada, you know, is gigantic and you really couldn't explore it on your own. The nice part about Tasmania is you could rent a car and you could really drive across the entire thing in a couple days and really see like tremendously different climates. And there's penguins. So Canada has no penguins despite being cold, but you could definitely see penguins in Tasmania.
And knowing David, he has a small obsession with penguins.
Yeah, penguins are sort of my thing, so yeah.
That's hilarious.
All right, cool. And Brooke, what about you? What do you think that, aside from Sydney, people should visit?
I agree completely with David about Tasmania and Western Australia. I finally went to Tasmania this year, and I was blown away at how beautiful it was, but also kind of how remote it feels still. I went to like a small section just on the northwest coast, and I felt like miles away from anything, but you know, you're still near your towns and an hour's drive away from a major city, so it was awesome. And the same with Western Australia. I mean, the beauty of the land, like the coastline, the landscape, the beaches, everything is just unforgettable. But for a lot of people, I think it's time. Time is a major issue when they come to Australia, and that's what they don't think about. So if you have the chance in your, you know, maybe short time period, pick one of these more remote destinations and go, and I think it'll be a really awesome experience.
So seeing that this is now my technically 8th time in the country, am I a bad tourist that I have yet to go to Western Australia or Tasmania?
Yes.
I really want to. They're on my list.
Yeah,
And now I will.
you definitely need time. You know, it's definitely they're not easy places to get to. But next time you're in Melbourne, Cailin, you should definitely do take the Spirit of Tasmania, which is it's like an overnight cruise ship that goes to Tasmania.
Oh, cool.
It's a great way to get there rather than flying to Hobart. And you know, you spend one night on the cruise ship, you have dinner, you go to sleep, and you wake up in Tasmania on the north coast, and then you can rent a car and drive the entire island if you want.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. All right. Cool. All right. Yeah. And what places? You know, I mean, so those would kind of be like the places that are always overlooked as well. Since it is such a big country, you know, it's like one of the the 3rd or 4th largest country in the world. I did the research, but now I forget.
It's no Canada, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like the same size as continental United States, so
yeah.
It's huge.
There you
it's
go.
Huge.
So what do you think is your suggested way of traveling around the country? I mean, you can do train, plane, buses. A lot of people rent RVs or car. Like, what do you think? We'll go with Brooke first. What's the best way to get around if you have time and if you don't have time?
Okay, well, if you don't have time, obviously plane, because there are long distances between major cities. You'll be driving for like 15 hours to get somewhere, so you got to think about that. But if you have the time, a camper van is obviously the way to go. It's like the true Australian road trip experience. It allows you to stop off at all those little places, like a waterfall over here, you know, a big thing here. You can just set your own itinerary, save money by having a vehicle that you can also sleep in. That's nice. Yeah, but just having that experience of being free in this very, very kind of vast country is really an amazing thing, I think.
Cool. And David?
That sounds awesome. I mean, I can't say I've ever done like an RV across Australia. That I would imagine that would be really fun. I've done sort of driving, like, you know, flying places and driving, but I would say that aside from that, definitely the train. I mean, I had the opportunity to do the Indian Pacific, which goes from Sydney to Perth over, you know, about 3 days, and it's just an unbelievable way to see like the entire interior of the country and just how little there is there, but like in a good way. You know, it's just desolate, but you stop in these little like mining towns, and it's just like you can't even believe that people live in these places. But it's such a cool way to sort of experience the, you know, Australia that's not the major cities, and also to bring you to Perth and to the West Coast. So I know, Cailin, you've done the GAN, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
from
so
Adelaide. The GAN sort of goes Adelaide, up north through the middle, and then the Indian Pacific goes Sydney across to Perth. So you can sort of crisscross Australia by train. You do need a lot of time, but it's a really special way to see the country.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think my trip was about 54 hours, 2 nights on the train, and I had gold class. So if you're going to do those train journeys, I definitely recommend paying a bit more to get the better class, because then you have food included. Otherwise, you're in like an airplane seat in the back with a lot of crying children.
Yeah, so that's what I did. Yeah, I did about 3 nights from Sydney to Perth, and it was called Red Kangaroo class, which is basically a chair, and we just ate like whatever food we brought with us when we stopped places. But that aside, it was still great. It was still a great experience.
Yeah. I did the Indian Pacific a couple years ago too, but I wasn't in the Red Kangaroo class. I was in like the one class above, but I wasn't gold. So we've all had different experiences, but still, yes. I loved the train trip. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, train travel, I definitely agree. It's very good. But actually, the first time when I came to Australia, I actually did a Kentucky tour. I did a bus tour. One of the reasons I came to Australia was kind of because it was the furthest I could get away from home but still feel comfortable because everyone speaks English and the food would be similar. And then I took this bus tour, just like I'd done in Europe. I had taken a Kentucky tour, and we went from Hamilton Island, sailing around the White Sundays, snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef, and visiting Fraser Island all the way down to Sydney. And that was probably only $2,000 maybe. It was kind of, can be pricey, but I had my own room, and pretty much everything was included. And probably, I think it was a 2-week trip. And taking the bus, all the way down, we would meet up with other bus tours that were doing the same thing, and would make friends, and it was, it was kind of a bit of a party bus, as Kentucky tours are. But I think traveling by bus, you can also do gray lines if you don't have much money. You can't rent a car or RV. I think gray line buses do up and down the East Coast, which are also a great deal.
I think they have special passes too on the bus. You can save some money.
Yeah, I think it's such an easy place to get around. The only challenge is just the size. The distances are so great, but there's so many options, and it's so comfortable. I mean, with everyone speaking English, and whether you get on a bus or rent a car or whatever. I mean, it's easy to do. It's just you do need time.
Yeah, that's for sure. You can't really take a week trip to Australia.
No.
All right, and so the next thing we're going to talk about, Australia has British roots with a European mix, with Melbourne having the largest Italian population outside of Italy. And the country is close in location to Asia, creating a mixed culinary adventure throughout the whole country. So what do you guys think are some staple Australian foods that everyone must try when visiting? So we're talking kangaroo, Tim Tams, tucker, crocodile, Vegemite. What do you guys, David, you go first. What's the must-have Australian food?
I mean, I guess I'd say kangaroo. I think I was surprised when I lived there to find that kangaroo was not like a novelty food that you could buy. It was just like a special thing you could eat. It's just so normal. I mean, you go into the supermarket and it's like beef, chicken, lamb, and kangaroo. It's no big deal to buy kangaroo because as cute as they are, there's just so many of them. So I mean, I would always make kangaroo when I lived there. And I mean, yeah, there's no shortage of snacks. Obviously, Tim Tams have become like Australia's export to the world. I mean, you could actually buy them here in New York now, which you couldn't when I first lived in Australia.
Yeah,
so that's nice. Yeah, they're everywhere. They finally got the right idea with that and started exporting.
Tim Tam's like a cookie. It's like a chocolate.
Yeah, Tim Tam's like a chocolate cookie. I mean, it doesn't sound like much when you describe it. It's just like a chocolate.
Very addictive. Once you have one, that's it.
It's absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
But right there with Tim Tams has got to be mint slices. Mint slices are amazing.
Oh,
they're just like they're like Girl Scout cookies with meats like
peppermint patty.
Peppermint patty. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good. I'm gonna go with meat. I'm gonna go with meat pies.
Meat pies.
I refuse to have one. It just seems so weird to me, but they're on every corner.
You could buy them from a vending machine.
Yeah, but you can get the gross meat pie, or you can go and get a nice meat pie.
You can get really good meat pies. Yeah, meat pies are pretty special, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get like chicken curry meat pies. Yeah, you could get kangaroo pie somewhere.
Yeah, but just like chicken mushroom, that's pretty common, or like a beef mince meat pie. There's places they're all over Manhattan now called like Pie Face. It's like an Australian meat pie.
Oh yeah.
They're all over New York City.
Chain. Yeah.
Yep.
Very nice. One of mine, I think, the most common foods, I think I'll go with kangaroo as well. However, I know a bunch of Australians have never had it, even though it's so readily available. But the one thing is that it's one of the leanest meats in the world. It's actually, if you're going to eat meat, it's like the healthiest meat you could be eating.
Yeah, it's really good. Those kangaroos get a good workout.
You're exactly jumping all the time.
Well, the thing is, years ago, they only used to feed kangaroo meat to dogs. They had it in like dog food. So it's kind of evolved now where it's actually people are eating it. But I think beforehand it wasn't seen as like a human food. It was
right.
Yeah, but not So.
Well, and there's a place here in the Rocks in Sydney that has kangaroo pizza, and it is like one of the best things I've ever eaten. It is so good.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. And then another food that I think is quintessentially Australian is like spiced potato wedges with sour cream and sweet chili sauce.
Yes.
Apparently you can eat this in London, but I've never seen it anywhere else but in Australia. And it's like a really simple snack or appetizer, but it's so good. It's so good.
Also just like chips with gravy, which is like very British. But I mean, I remember driving around Tasmania, and like you'd pull into like a petrol station rest stop, and you could just get like a giant bowl of chips, French fries with gravy. It's just the worst possible thing you could eat, but delicious.
You're talking to a Canadian here.
Yeah. There's no cheese on it. It's not poutine, but you know. I also really like, with the Asian influences here, there's a lot of like, there's obviously a lot of the cities have Chinatowns, and they have some of the best dumplings I've ever had. Mm-hmm. They're like really good with the, I don't even know how to pronounce one of them, but the long bao soup dumplings. And there's just one place in Sydney called the Bamboo Dumpling Bar, and they have ice cream dumplings. It's so amazing.
Have you ever been to that Asian food court in downtown by the Sydney?
Patty's Market?
It's near Patty's Market. It's called like Food World. It's just it's a food
world.
court, but everything is I love that place. It's just a food court, but it's like Chinese, Korean, Japanese, like Vietnamese, all Asian food in a food court.
And that's
it's
probably
really
one
cheap.
of the places you can eat in the city too.
Yeah, it's really cheap and it's pretty awesome. It's right near Chinatown.
What is it called? Eating World.
Eating World? I don't know. It's something like really generic that doesn't explain what it is at all. Yeah, it's right near Sydney Entertainment Center.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, and let's go on to beer. Now, just so everyone knows, no one drinks Foster's here. It's touted as an Australian beer, but if people here see you drink it, they will get very mad at you. It's not something people drink. I don't know. Is it even readily available here? I've never actually seen it.
It's made for export. It's made for export.
So I'll offer some explanation on the Foster's.
All right.
Because that's always been a confusing point. So Foster's is like a giant brewery. It's like a giant company that creates like a lot of the brands of beer that you're used to seeing in Australia. But when they go abroad, instead of exporting all of those different brands, they just export one brand that they just call Foster's, which is like the parent company. So no one in Australia knows what the hell Foster's is because they're used to like legitimate Australian beers that are owned by Foster's. But then abroad, they just market it as just like plain Foster's. So that's why like in Australia, nobody knows what that is.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. And what is your favorite Australian beer? You seem like a bit of a connoisseur.
I don't know about that, but I like Cooper's.
Cooper's, yeah.
Yeah.
Brooke, yours?
Fat Yak is my favorite Australian beer.
All right.
Not just because of the name.
There's one I've had here called Little Creatures that people really love.
Yeah.
I didn't like that one so much. I often go for the cider. There are so many cider options here.
Yes, Australians love cider.
It's
way better than Strongbow. Even Magners and Bulmers. Like they just have all these unique brands of cider. It's so good.
It's really. Go on.
Another big thing that's happening right now is that in the cities, there's a big movement towards craft beer. So there's a lot of pubs that really will only sell craft beers these days. So microbrews and stuff like that. That's becoming quite big. So you can always get something interesting to drink.
Very cool.
Yeah. Sorry.
And then, what's that?
I cut David off.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, as good as beer is, I mean, Cailin, you know, I'm a rum drinker.
Yes.
And Bundaberg rum, which is certainly not a good rum by any rum standards, but is like a quintessential Australian rum, or Bundy rum, as you'd say in Australia. And definitely the best part of Bundy rum is that you can buy it already mixed with Coke, which is like the coolest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen that in the United States, but you could buy like cans, like 12-ounce cans that are already mixed like rum and Coke. Yeah, that is just Australians are amazing. Yeah.
I've seen that. It is pretty cool. They also have like the rock stars like already mixed, and they have vodka drinks already mixed too.
Oh yeah. They're very controversial because I think like young kids are getting really drunk on these things, but it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I agree. All right, cool. And then, let's talk about more of the country. What do you think is your best time of year, the best time of year to visit here? Like I know January, February, the hot summer months, but depending where you are in the country, like if you're in Cairns, it's always hot. Or if you're in Tasmania,
Yeah.
it can get quite chilly in winter. When do you think is the best place, the best time to visit?
Anytime. You can always find a great place in Australia any time of the year, but if you want to come to Sydney or Melbourne, you want to come not in the winter months, which is June to August. And that's just because it's chilly and it's rainy. But you can go north to Cairns and it would be perfectly fine. So,
True.
yeah.
And does snow a bit here. Like there are some mountains that you can go skiing and snowboarding on here as well.
Okay,
right?
yeah. If you like snow sports, then yeah, you could come in winter.
But that's not the point of Australia.
Tasmania definitely gets cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say spring and fall. I mean, winter obviously. The big drawback for me is the days are really short.
Yeah.
So you want a lot of sunshine, but at the same time in the summer, like there's a lot of bugs in Australia.
Yeah.
Like even in Sydney.
And it's like 43 degrees.
Yeah,
too,
it is
right?
really hot, and there are a lot of bugs. So spring and fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot
so spring and fall is kind of opposite in North America, right?
Yeah.
Spring and fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be fall and spring, but I mean, yeah, the same sort of
Yeah.
times of year I think are the best.
Yeah.
Cool. Did it cut you off, Brooke? Did you have something? You good?
Can't remember what I was saying.
Okay.
So.
Sorry. All right, and this is a bit of an interesting question I think I had from somebody, and they're asking, is there anywhere that you don't think people should visit? I mean, I love everywhere I've been. I haven't really hated much of a place, but is there anywhere that you think people could pass on, or are you pretty much happy with the whole country?
It's a tough
I
know
question.
when I saw this question, I couldn't really think of anything offhand.
All right.
Honestly, every place has its own kind of charm. So.
I agree. I mean, I absolutely loved everywhere I went in Australia. There's nowhere that I mean, other than like specific parts of Sydney, maybe that
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to say like an entire city or a part of the country, I mean, it's just so diverse and there's so many different things available. Nothing comes to mind as like, oh, just pass. Not at all.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then let's talk more about Sydney, and I'm waiting to show you guys my view right now. I'm actually currently sitting on top of the Shangri-La Hotel on the 36th floor, and it has one of the best views of the city. You can see, look at the
Very jealous.
Yeah.
Look at it. Isn't that nice? Thank you to Shangri-La for letting me sit up here. So Sydney, it's my favorite city. I was just in Melbourne for the second time just last weekend, and aside from the Chinatown and the amazing food, I didn't really love that city. For some reason, I just connect to Sydney. I don't know if it's the big harbor or what it is. But my question to you guys is, aside from seeing the Opera House and climbing the bridge, what do you think are the must-see things to do in Sydney? Brooke?
Okay, I'll go first. Well, obviously, the beaches. You can't miss out on the beaches. They're all incredible. It's part of what makes Sydney so amazing, being so close to all these beautiful beaches. But for me, if you want to get a little bit out of the city, I highly, highly recommend the Royal National Park. It is probably my favorite thing around the city. It's just beautiful. In the city, I would say, if you go out on a ferry ride, get out on the water, do anything that's on the water, that's a must-do. Eating some really great Asian food. Going on the Bondi to Coogee walk, that's a really good activity to spend a Saturday or Sunday doing. I don't want to take them all, so David, do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, you took a couple of mine, actually. The Bondi Coogee Beach Walk is something that, I've probably done a half a dozen times. I mean, anytime anyone's visited me in Australia, we did that walk. I mean, it's just so beautiful, and I mean, it's a good, you could leisurely spend half a day sort of walking from between Bondi and Coogee.
Are there a lot of steps? I haven't done that either.
There's a lot of steps. I mean, it's pretty developed. I mean, where there needs to be steps, there's actual steps, and there's beautiful pathways, and there's a lot of just incredible rock formations, and the things that erosion does to that part of the coast is incredible. But you just sort of wind along the coast from Bondi north, down to Bronte, and then eventually down to Coogee Beach, Tamarana Beach. Yeah, I mean, it's it's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So that's definitely a highlight for me. I'd say, yeah, I like that you mentioned the ferries. I mean, I think you can go so many places with the ferries, and you know, you just sort of show up at Circular Quay, and you could get on a ferry to either Manly, which is, you know, fantastic, or you know, even just someplace close like Double Bay or Watson's Bay. I really like Watson's Bay. It's especially like around sunset to look back at the city. That's sort of like due east of the Harbour Bridge, so you could see the whole skyline and you could see the bridge and the Opera House. Is really nice. Other than that, I had the Botanical Gardens are one of my favorite places in Sydney. Even though it sounds really lame that you'd want to go and see, you know, flowers and stuff, I think that Australia is just such a bizarre place, and that like everything that lives there only doesn't exist anywhere else. So like all of the plants and trees and flowers are just like, you feel like you're on another planet, and then you have amazingly gigantic spiders and gigantic bats.
The giant bats.
Bats are where you have flying fox bats, and if you go around sunset, you'll see the bats actually leaving their, you know, where they sleep and flying across the city. They cover the sky and go and look for fruit. It's just incredible. That's like my favorite part of the day in Sydney. Not that I really love bats, but I think they're just so cool, and they're really, really big. Yeah.
Very cool. I think one thing, you know, I'm one of the reasons that I first wanted to ever come to Australia was because of the koalas and kangaroos. Obviously, right in downtown Sydney, there aren't any wild ones running around, but you can take a ferry, go across to Taronga Zoo, which is one of the most beautiful zoos I've ever been to. And it has, Taronga actually means, in Aboriginal speak, it means beautiful view. And it actually has a beautiful view of the city and the harbour, and the giraffes, the tallest ones, they can see everything.
They have the best view.
And there you can get koalas, you can get your photo taken with koala. You can't touch them though. And you can walk around with the wallabies and the kangaroos, and there's like red pandas, and there's emus, and there's crocodiles. There's a Komodo dragon. It's one of the coolest zoos ever. Yeah, I think people should definitely hit that up.
I love Taronga. I mean, you're absolutely right. Taronga is an incredible zoo. I mean, you're sitting there looking at giraffes, and in the background you see the Sydney Opera House. It's right over your shoulder there, actually. But I think even if you really like the animals and you want to see the animals closer up, I really like Featherdale Wildlife Park, which is sort of outside Sydney. I mean, maybe it takes like maybe 45 minutes on the train to get there. But there you can actually see like kangaroos, wallabies, and koalas like really up close. You could actually touch them, feed them. It's a really cool experience. I mean, anyone that visited me when I lived in Australia, we always would go there and see the animals really up close. It's not terribly convenient, but it's worth the trip.
Yeah, very cool. And then what else? I think, sorry, I'm lost myself in my notes. Let's talk about also, Sydney's so big, it's so sprawling, and there's a lot of, aside from the CBD, like right downtown, the main, I guess you could almost compare it to Manhattan, kind of how it has two arms of water going on other sides of it. There's the main downtown portion of Sydney, and then there's a bunch of neighborhoods like Glebe and Newtown and all kinds of places. So where should people get outside of Sydney to visit and, you know, go to a cafe or just hang out and shop? What neighborhoods do you recommend? Maybe Brooke will ask you first.
Well, if you want maybe a good coffee or a good cafe, you can go to Surrey Hills, you can go to Darlinghurst. Newtown's really great for that too. So is Glebe. Glebe's a really awesome suburb. Great for shopping too. If you want to eat some good food, I would say the CBD is great for that, or Chinatown. Yeah. We already talked about that. Going out, hands down, King's Cross and Darlinghurst. Those are mine.
Ooh, the nighttime spots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And David, do you have anything to add to that one?
No, I would agree. I mean, I lived in Newtown, so Newtown's a great place to sort of feel a lot more like a local. You have to go to the hotels. I mean, a hotel in Sydney is really a bar, but which is like really confusing. But you know, and that's a great place to sort of eat and drink pretty cheap, because they'll all have like sort of promotional nights, like Tuesday at this hotel, Wednesday at this hotel, Thursday at this hotel, that they'll always have like really cheap meals. So that's, I mean, since I was a student when I lived in Sydney, that was basically, if I was going out to eat, it was at that type of place, not like a nice restaurant. But I mean, and Newtown is full of those. Like down King Street in Newtown is just all like hotels and like little Thai restaurants and stuff like that. I mean, going out, yeah, King's Cross is like, where clubs are, but I love the Rocks, where you're basically sitting right now, Cailin. I love the Argyle at the Rocks, and then of course you end your night with pancakes at the Rocks, which is an institution. Yeah, nothing like ending your night with pancakes. Yeah.
So good. And the Argyle here, they have the best mojitos like ever. Even though it's Australia, they might be $17 though. But they're really good.
It's not cheap. I mean, eating and drinking in Sydney is not cheap. I think I bought like a $22 drink at one point on Manly or something like that, which was ridiculous. But the Argyle is cool. It's like an old castle. I mean, you walk through these gigantic doors into a courtyard, and you feel like you're in a castle, but it's like also a club. It's really cool.
People get their wedding photos taken in the Argyle. I've seen that happen. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I love that place.
Also in the Rocks, there's Hart's Pub and Lord Nelson Brewery Hotel, and those are really cool places for getting some like craft beer. That's really awesome to hang out in.
And Lowenbrau if you want to just German it up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You want to drink a liter of beer.
Get your liter of beer. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then also where I am right now, I'm actually sitting in a bar called the Blue Bar on 36, which is up at the top of the Shangri-La. And you can come here every night and get views like this, but at nighttime, and it's pretty amazing. And then what else about Sydney? Like, it can be expensive. I'm actually going to cut my trip short a week or two just because I didn't budget properly. It's pretty much my problem. I'm running out of money a bit. But what do you have for tips for seeing Sydney and seeing Australia on the cheap? Like, is there any anything secret, any tips that people might not realize?
Secret. Cheap. I don't know. That's hard. That's really hard.
I think for me, I'll stay in a nice hotel for the weekend or for something, but I often stay in the hostels. Like I'm staying in the Sydney Harbour YHA right now, which is my favorite hostel in the world. And conveniently, I can walk down George Street and go to a grocery store, and I spend about $28 on groceries, and I can eat probably about 10 meals off of that. And that's how I'm doing Sydney cheap right now, but that's a lot of just eating toast.
Yeah, I think the trick to being cheap in Sydney is food and drink. That's really where it gets out of control. I mean, you could find a reasonable place to stay, but food and drink will just absolutely kill you. So, I mean, if you could do hotels, and I don't mean hotels like a place you stay, I mean like local pubs, they'll usually have like, $10 steak night and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if you, like you're doing, if you're going shopping at supermarkets and maybe you go to like a park and use a barbecue or something like that and make a meal for yourself. I love Jubilee Park in Glebe. That's a beautiful spot to just sit and kind of have your own barbecue with friends. But if you could control your food and drink, and then you're getting somewhere, because it gets out of control real quick.
Yeah, definitely does. And another thing is to stay away from taxis as best as possible.
Yes.
Public transport can be a nightmare here because it takes so long to get from A to B, but it's better than a $100 taxi ride. So
yeah, absolutely. Public transport and just walking. I've walked back from the Opera House to Newtown so many times I can't even imagine, which is like 3 miles.
That's a long walk.
Yeah, better than a taxi.
And and the city's fairly safe. Like I feel very comfortable walking around here. I mean, and you should obviously make smart decisions, but it seems pretty safe. Because in the train can only take you so many places, but mostly for transportation, people rely on buses here, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty good bus network. You have to get a little familiar with it to use it, but yeah, it goes all over.
And you have
to prepay your bus tickets for most of them. Just be aware.
Yeah. See, what else for saving money? I would say if you're traveling through Australia, the camper van option, if you can share it with friends, would be a good way to save money. And camping. I'm not a big camper, but you know what? In Australia, it's just worth it. It's just so beautiful. You want to be out in the nature and experiencing it that way.
If saying camping, that brings up one of the questions that we have from someone. What about, Australia is known for deadly snakes and spiders. So what about, how do you protect yourself from them? Have you guys had any experiences where you've come across a crazy snake or spider, or is it as bad as, some people, they think that's all there is. It's just spiders and snakes. But can you talk about that and say how maybe it's not as bad as they think?
I've been here for over 4 years and I'm still alive, so I think that's a good indicator. I hardly ever see anything bad myself. I don't know. Nothing major on my part.
And even though you've traveled around the country, you've never heard crazy stories of people being attacked or anything?
No, not really. The worst thing would probably be sharks.
Yes. All right. And David, do you have any crazy spider or snake stories?
I don't have any snake stories, definitely not. I mean, spiders are just like a part of life. I mean, you see spiders, like you see big, scary spiders. I mean, if you have a fear of spiders, you kind of get like those golden orb spiders that you'll see kind of all
just
over
hanging
Sydney.
out. Yeah,
Just
hanging out in the bushes.
But you know what? Like spiders have no interest in you at all. So they're doing their own thing, and I've never heard of anyone like getting bitten by a spider or anything like that. And I've never seen any snakes. So.
I don't even think anyone's died from like a funnel web or any spider bites since like the 70s when a vaccination was made for these.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's not nearly as bad as people make it out to be.
I've come across one snake on my travels, but that was on Fraser Island, and we think it was a brown snake, which is a deadly snake, but it was never confirmed. But I mean, we were out in snake country. We were at his home. He wasn't at ours. So. Yeah. So I agree. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. All right. And let's see. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add? Any questions that I didn't ask? Oh, let's talk a bit. Before you ask you that, let's talk a bit about Australian slang. I come here every trip I come here, I find myself giggling at the different words that I hear come out of Australians' mouths. Maybe Brooke, you even want to get Pat on, and we can have him tell us some of the.
He's on the phone in the other room, so.
Well, what are some Australian words that might surprise someone, or someone might not understand if they were arriving there?
So many things.
I'll start. Okay, how about Arvo? A-R-V-O, Arvo. That means
Arvo.
Let's meet up tomorrow, Arvo.
Yeah, afternoon. Yeah.
That's a really.
That one doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
It's sort of a culture of just abbreviating things for no reason.
Really, it is.
Yeah,
and like McDonald's is Macca's.
Yeah, it's just shortening things to like cutesy sort of versions of it, just cause, I think.
No, I wouldn't say cutesy. I say lazy. Lazy.
some yeah, it's a mix.
We can't say ambulance, we say ambo. So
well, that's definitely lazy.
We don't say service station, we say servo. It's just so lazy. Things like bogan. Bogan's a really good one.
Bogan, yeah.
Bogan's good.
Yeah. Explain what that is.
Like I guess kind of trashy.
Like a hillbilly.
Yeah, hillbilly.
Like a hillbilly. Yeah.
Yeah. Such a bogan. And like flip-flops are, what do you call flip-flops? Flip-flops are like thongs. And they call big suits togs. Is that a common word?
Budgie smugglers.
Budgie smugglers.
That's just
so they'll call Speedos budgie smugglers, and budgies are actually little birds. So imagine little birds. That's a good one.
Sunny, the sunglasses. I always like
sunny.
Yeah.
And mosquitoes are mozzies.
Mozzies, yeah. And then you have phrases like how you going and stuff that just makes no sense. Yeah.
Every time I go into the store and someone says how you going, I don't know if I should say I'm here or I'm good or like.
Yeah. And reckon, they use reckon.
Reckon.
I hate reckon.
And keen.
I hate it. Keen I'm okay with, but reckon sounds very like Southern U.S.
Hillbilly. Yeah, but I've actually said reckon a few times now. I've been here for 4 years, so I catch myself saying these things, and when you do, you're just like, why? Why?
Very cool.
See. Anything else? Yeah.
And also
you get your
whinge was one of the ones that I had. Whinge is like
whinge
wine.
Is hard. Yeah. Whinge. Yeah. Everyone says whinge, not wine. That one is very hard for me to.
Yeah. It's ugly sounding. But sorry, what was the one you were gonna say?
Oh, you get your alcohol at the bottle-o.
Bottle
shop, the bottle-o. That's a good one. Everyone should know that. That's how you're going to save money on your trip.
Where's the bottle-o? All right,
Oh,
perfect.
so many good ones.
I think, yeah, so was there anything that you guys think that you guys definitely want to be said about traveling to Australia that I missed? Definitely do it. That's the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have time, I mean, I love Sydney, but try to add at least one more location.
Another thing I thought of is a way to kind of make it more cost effective for people is to actually do the working holiday.
Yes.
So get a working holiday visa and live here, and then you can, you know, make some money, make some Australian dollars, and then go travel for a bit. So it's a great option for people who are under 31. Yeah.
And for the working holidays, you can, you know, find people to sponsor you, and you work like in an office or doing some kind of job in the city. But it also involves sometimes fruit picking, right?
Yes. If you're Canadian or English, and you have the ability to get a second-year visa. Not Americans, though, unfortunately. Yeah, you can get a second-year visa if you do 3 months of agricultural work, which usually involves fruit picking. So.
Very cool.
Right. And there's some budget airlines that you should look at too, like Jetstar or Tiger Air. I mean, you can get some pretty good deals both domestically and also to like Southeast Asia on those carriers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, actually, while I was here, I was amazed. I was flying to Melbourne, one-way ticket, Sydney to Melbourne. It's like an hour flight in a bit. $35 on Jetstar. Amazing.
On Jetstar.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's not the best experience flying them, but it gets you there pretty cheap.
Yeah, it does the job.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and I think that should wrap everything up. I hope that everyone enjoyed our talk about Australia today. And if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to any one of us. David's Twitter handle is Darudi, D-A-R-O-D-I, and Brooke's is Brooke Schoenman, which is Brooke with an E and then S-C-H-O-N-E-M-A-N. Is that right?
S-C-H-O-E-N-M-A-N.
Yes. Yeah, I missed the
It's confusing. Yeah.
And I'll save all of our notes today, and I'll put them up in the description of the video, and this video will live on YouTube. And thanks again to Google and G Adventures for having us here today. And all this week, I'll be posting on the G Adventures traveling community on Google+, giving you all a virtual tour of Australia. So please feel free to share the things that I post, one-up them, and ask any questions that you might have. And I hope you guys have all enjoyed. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.